the Honorable IBG President, who is now to cast his vote.
Chief Momis given the honor of being the very first to cast his vote in this referendum, a moment which he said was a long time coming, in an exercise guaranteed through the Bougainville Peace Agreement.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Thank you very much, Returning Officer John. Today, Emmy Wampla Gupla Daylong Bougainville. Result long referendum, stop long, long, me now. I'm delighted to be here with you all. We've conducted the most comprehensive enrolment in the history of Papua New Guinea. We've reached out to Bougainvilleans living overseas and in every province of PNG. It is my honour and pleasure to give you the referendum result. The total vote counted were 181,067. The number of votes for option 1, greater autonomy, 3,043. The number of votes for option 2, independence, 176,928 votes. Greater autonomy, 3,043, 3,043. The number of votes for option 2, independence, 176,928 votes.
You sabe talk imi talk him now. Look at lose nothing. But today no long mipla. Today I'm about you. And if you play no mind, me like you may give him 30-second respect. You down him umbrella, you rouse him head, now you may pay him respect to those who unnecessarily lost their life for this moment today.
I am a great believer in the importance of human participation. If people participate in the process of liberation and development, therein lies the solution for rebellion. You only rebel against something that alienates you.
We saw from the beginning that the leadership of Bougainville and the people of Bougainville really wanted to administer themselves, to map out their own destiny. It goes back the early years of the discovery of Bougainville from the 17th century onwards. There was this feeling that Bougainville was an island somewhere in the region, because as you can recall, it's basically ethnically related to the Solomon Islands.
Bougainvilleans have had an aspiration for independence that predates actually the independence of Papua New Guinea. And that's a fundamental factor that has to be considered. And it's a reality that has been heavily impacted by probably the biggest trauma that this young nation has gone through, which is the Bougainville conflict. Its crisis that lasted over 10 years had a massive impact on society, has had a massive impact within Bougainville in terms of the relations between different clans and parts of the region itself.
Speaking on the Bougainville issue, it's quite emotional, for many of us. Excuse me.
For me and my family, we never thought for one moment that this crisis was going to continue on for 10 years. So it was a situation which no one was safe. Even from your own families, you were not safe. Even from your own uncles, you were not safe. That's why, coming this far, when we are able to vote for this referendum, vote, to me, it's a dream. It's a dream come true.
Well, what was allowed to happen here in Bougainville is sad and should never have happened. We should never, as leaders, should never have let this happen to our people. We should have exercised more responsibility, and with the national government, I believe, was too heavy-handed. It didn't understand the issues properly, it didn't address them properly. In a Melanesian way, I would say, in inverted commas.
Because there was already a background history of self-determination and people empowerment, there was a lot of discussion and conversation on the island about how come we own the resource and the foreigners developing it, and they are making more money than us. So that tied on to this observation that Bougainville Copper Mine, although it was contributing to development, they felt that their resource was being exploited. at their disadvantage. And so groups came up, arguments came up, and then the conflict went out of proportion.
The Bougainville-Copper Agreement was so unfair that the people's government and the landowners became mere spectators with very, very small benefits. The national government turned a deaf ear to their plea for justice and respect.
Conflict, it's a natural part of societal relations. What is fundamental is prevent those conflicts from becoming violent. And that's what we keep on trying to do around the world, and that's what we've been doing in Papua New Guinea. And you know, peace is fundamental to everything, right? It sounds like a refrain, but it's the reality. I mean, there can't be any development without peace, but there ain't gonna be any peace without development. And the two are totally interlinked, and they rest fundamentally on the respect of human rights.
Why the peace agreement was successful in its initial stage was everyone was involved. The women, the youth, the ex-combatants, the political leaders, the church people. Everyone were part of the process of negotiating the peace agreement. That's why at the end of the day, when we signed the peace agreement, we said it's our agreement with the government of Papua New Guinea and Bougainville.
We strongly promoted affirming people, involving them, that it is they themselves who are creating something that they must take ownership of. And I think that is the reason why the Bougainville Peace Agreement has succeeded.
I want all Bougainvillians to be victors in this process of peace, who may wish to join us in the road ahead.
What I remember back that time, first of all, was a huge sense of relief that finally, you know, the region had emerged out of the conflict, and that there was a lasting peace, and that the people were actually able to move forward with their livelihoods. And I think that was really the attention. And I think really what I want to point out again or highlight is that this is one of the most successful peace agreements ever. It was signed almost 20 years ago, 18 years ago. It lasted because it was a very strong, you know, agreement, and both parties stuck to it and worked their way through the different stages, through the different pillars. And I think that helped build again a lot of trust.
The second thing you have to be very proud of is that the Bougainville Peace Agreement is probably the most successful peace agreement that exists in the world today. And it's yours.
Today, we have shown the world that yes, whilst we run short of solution and we have picked up gun in the past, we can truly also work to honor agreements and peaceful agreements that has been given to us. I acknowledge the work of United Nations and other stakeholders who are with us. Australia government, New Zealand government, Solomon Islands government. Out of goodwill and humanity, you have embraced us and assisted in the Bougainville peace process over many years.
United Nations, I have heard that you have given tremendous support to the BRC, and also from 1998 coming up to this day. And you will continue to give the support during the post-transitional period. That gives me assurance that you are still with us, and thank you very much for that from the heart.
Papua New Guinea became an independent state in 1975, in September. And just less than a month after becoming an independent state, it was admitted to the General Assembly. And to me, what is most strikingly important is that 20 days after the declaration of independence of Papua New Guinea, a young Michael Somare, father of the nation, was actually in New York at the General Assembly for the first time, representing an independent Papua New Guinea.
This is the most significant achievement in our history.
And that's something that we have to remember, is that the UN is not an external actor. The United Nations is owned by Papua New Guinea and Papua New Guineans.
I declare Papua New Guinea admitted to membership in the United Nations.
Within the UN family, UNDP obviously plays a very special role because it is the agency with the broadest development mandate. So our focus is not so much on very specific sectors, but we work on poverty reduction and governance, as well as peace building and conflict prevention. But we also have a very large program focusing on livelihoods and environmental sustainability, so people can make a living off their land and use their natural resources, but do that in a manner that also, protects and conserves those natural resources for future generations.
How long will it take us to agree to the new government structure, to agree to the mechanics, agree to the administrative arrangements? Therefore, our leaders said there must be discussion of the final outcome of the referendum before it goes to the parliament for final vetting.
The real challenge in Bougainville now is, to take on to the post-referendum period and see how they can negotiate the next phase and how they can have harmony between the Papua New Guinea government and Bougainville to a process that will not have status quo or stalemate, and that they will be able to be seen incrementally to move on and find a way that Bougainvilleans will feel that they have more control over their destiny.
They come here, lo give him tuplahan, lo make him walk. Mani blo fish blo you must stop here. Mani blo DY blo you must stop here. Mani blo cacao blo you must stop here. Mani blo cobra blo you must stop here. Mani blo tourist blo you must stop here. But because Papua New Guinea got big ladina lo yupla, that we must do what is rightfully and morally right.
So this assurance of the national government is a very good assurance that we will still continue to be assisted by the government of Papua New Guinea, because it's a non-binding referendum. We will go into a transition, and within those transitions we will look at these economic aspects.
Maybe I talk 5 million belong Arawa School of Nursing.
But it will be all of us with the national government and us working on a package, because it should not be just left to the Bougainvilleans to work on it.
Bougainville is a special case. It's the country hopefully will never go through this experience again. However, we need to learn from it. That's part of the solution. And we want to empower subnational governments in general, but within the context that we don't want to allow this nation to fracture. It's not in the interest of our people to have a divided nation of multiple little countries, as the example is always given of the Pacific nations. That's not how you, I don't think, will achieve economic independence, which is the basis of political independence. You'll end up needing help from others anyway, and that's not independence.
People in Bougainville will continue to uphold the peace. If they want independence, all of us know that it's not going to come instantly. Now they have this 3-in-1, a small packet that is coffee, sugar, and milk. If it's not 3-in-1, you have to wait patiently, or not just wait and find out, but work towards it. If we want independence, who is going to give it to us?
And my view even of independence is this. I don't no longer see it as a separation, but really as a redefinition of a relationship. Because in Melanesian context and Papua New Guinea Bougainville cultural context, we don't talk about single citizenship. We talk about multiple identities and multiple citizenship.
I'm sure the national government will say, as much as we love you, we don't really want to let you go. Not because we want to suppress you, but we believe that we would make a better nation if Bougainville remained with PNG.
When you open the can of discussing self-rule and autonomy and independence, every other citizen and tribe in our country will be, that thought will be entertained. That's why our government is thinking about what is the better formula for resource harvest and resource distribution.
Government Blomin, under my leadership as Prime Minister, I am not about centralizing power in Waigani, but detaching power back to our people where they are. And Bougainville, you're a special case. Now you've gone beyond special case and you're extra special.
We on Bougainville think that if we open the Panguna mine, we can kickstart the economy with that huge money that can be generated from the mine, and then invest into agriculture. So agriculture is the backbone of any country, because extractive industries will run out one day. There will be no copper gold. So we need to invest into a sovereign wealth fund so that the future generation can reap the harvest later on, while the economy into agriculture and fisheries and all other renewable resources are up and running.
The Bougainville copper mine was a significant contributor to the national budget in terms of the national development. So when it was destroyed, we really were in trouble. And the biggest argument was, when are we going to reopen the mine? Because that was the backbone of the country's economy, as well as the backbone of economic activities here in Bougainville.
I fear mining, because if I was going to lay the foundations of independent Bougainville on mining, that nation is going to last only 5 years. Because once the yellow stones are taken out under the ground, that nation is gone. Internationally, the sea level is rising. We are on a small island, but we don't want to dig big holes in a small canoe that might sink in the next 100 years.
From our perspective, we are very keen to support the government in looking into their non-mineral sectors, because to bank just on one commodity or natural resource is never a good idea. You should always have, a diversified economic structure and livelihoods, because that will, at the end of the day, help you to withstand shocks, especially if you are in natural resources. You're dependent on, commodity prices, and prices for gold and copper in the world go up and down.
PNG is a country of 20 provinces, one national capital district, and an autonomous region. And if I were to compare Bougainville with the others, well, it's not far behind. As to the aspirations of independence, aspirations in life are fundamental. Like, you want to be ambitious, then you also have to be realistic on what it takes you to get to your final goal.
In 1990, we learned an important lesson. And that lesson was this: it's one thing for a guerrilla army to throw out a government, but it's totally another question for the same guerrilla army to govern a territory. Independence is about being a government, it's about nation building, it's about public service, it's about service delivery, it's about education.
The issue of independence did not start now. It was from our forefathers. Talking about independence from the 20s, causing first revolution on independence, the second UDI, and then the mess of destruction on the island on independence. But we will resolve this matter once and for all through the democratic choice.
And we have agreed to co-manage this Bougainville Peace Agreement through the process, and we are getting there.
I am here to rebuild the trust capital by giving you resource support to ensure work is done within the context of
Melanesian society predates constitutional democracy and House of Representatives or House of Parliament. We live in society that engages in conversation, and we find Melanesian consensus. I believe both in Bougainville and Papua New Guinea leaders and people will find a Melanesian consensus. That spirit will bring us to a spot where the intentions for self-determination is not harmed, whilst intention of Greater Papua New Guinea for national unity is not harmed in the process.
There's a reservoir of experience and knowledge in the world which clearly shows that when people collaborate, critically cooperate, they come up with something completely new.